All right, everybody, we are up to sleep and recovery on our factors of fat loss pyramid, right? So this week we're going to really spend time talking about sleep, but recovery as a whole is really, really important because if we think of our training, our dieting, everything like a bank account, we want to make sure that as we spend our money, we are replenishing that account to make sure that it's actually growing. The last thing we want to do is have a trajectory of our bank account just like shrinking away to nothing, right? So we got to make sure that we're putting things in to help us be able to do the things that we want to do. So sleep and recovery strategies are really, really important. But again, because there's been so many questions about it, I wanted to spend today's email, blog, whichever way you're seeing this material, talking about the sleep component. And the first thing I'm going to do, I don't, it's like if you're presenting, you don't want to just like read off slides. But I do actually want to start with reading. This book is called Why We Sleep. I'm going to read the whole book. It's a short read, just like 300 pages. No, I want to read the intro. And this is almost going to sound like sales copy that's made to scare someone, but it's absolutely true. And I think it's a really good starting point to get an understanding of how important sleep is. So here goes. To sleep. Do you think you got enough sleep this past week? Can you recall the last time you woke up without an alarm clock feeling refreshed and not needing caffeine? If the answer to either of these questions is no, you're not alone. 2/3 of adults throughout all developed nations fail to obtain the recommended 8 hours of nightly sleep. I doubt you are surprised by this fact, but you may be surprised by the consequences. Ready? Routinely sleeping less than 6 or 7 hours a night demolishes your immune system, more than doubling your risk of cancer. Insufficient sleep is a key lifestyle factor determining whether or not you will develop Alzheimer's disease. Inadequate sleep, even moderate reductions for just one week, disrupts blood sugar levels so profoundly that you would be classified as pre-diabetic. Short sleeping increases the likelihood of your coronary arteries becoming blocked and brittle, setting you on a path toward cardiovascular disease, stroke, and congestive heart failure. Fitting Charlotte Bronte's prophetic wisdom that a ruffled mind makes a restless pillow, sleep disruption further contributes to all major psychiatric conditions, including depression, anxiety, and suicidality. I read this to my daughter every night before bed. It's a really good story. Perhaps you have also noticed a desire to eat more. Here we go, some of the fat loss stuff. To eat more when you're tired. This is no coincidence. Too little sleep swells concentrations of a hormone that makes you feel hungry while suppressing a companion hormone that otherwise signals food satisfaction. Despite being full, you still want to eat more. It's a proven recipe for weight gain in sleep-deficient adults and children alike. Worse, should you attempt to diet but don't get enough sleep while doing so, this is really important, it is futile, since most of the weight you will lose will come from lean body mass, not fat. So it's not to say that you can't lose weight while you're short on sleep, but I'm going to repeat that part. Most of the weight you lose will come from lean body mass, not fat. And as we've been talking about in this series, we want to increase lean body mass because that's going to raise our resting metabolic rate, which is our body working on our side to burn more calories 24/7 to make all of our efforts that we do in the gym and with a sound nutrition approach that much more impactful. So sleep's really, really important. Almost done here. Add the above health consequences up and a proven link becomes easier to accept. The shorter you sleep, the shorter your lifespan. The old maxim, I'll sleep when I'm dead, is therefore unfortunate. Adopt this mindset and you will be dead sooner, and the quality of that life shorter life will be worse. The elastic band of sleep deprivation can stretch only so far before it snaps. Sadly, human beings are in fact the only species that will deliberately deprive themselves of sleep without legitimate gain. Every component of wellness and countless seams of societal fabric are being eroded by our costly stage of sleep neglect, human and financial alike. So much so that the World Health Organization has now declared a sleep loss epidemic throughout industrialized nations. It is no coincidence that countries where sleep time has declined most dramatically over the past century, such as the US, UK, Japan, and South Korea, and several in Western Europe, are also those suffering the greatest increase in rates of the aforementioned physical diseases and mental disorders, right? One more thing, because actually this next section is really, really important, and this is quick, but I saw someone post something today. Scientists such as myself have even started lobbying doctors to start prescribing sleep. So you're thinking, oh, sleep medications? No. As medical advice goes, it's perhaps the most painless and enjoyable to follow. Do not, however, mistake this as a plea to doctors to start prescribing more sleeping pills. Quite the opposite, in fact, considering the alarming evidence surrounding the deleterious health consequences of these drugs. If it interests you, not that like you read that, you're like, oh, I feel really warm and fuzzy, I want to read this book. But this book, I mean, is one of the most impactful books that I've read this entire year. And it's something that I want to read again because it gets into things like, if any of you are have aging parents and you've seen, or grandparents, and you've seen the horrible breakdown of something like Alzheimer's, if you at all wish that you could do something more, like read this. We can. Sleep is huge, and there's all kinds of research that's been done on what kind of impact sleep and sleep strategies, some of which we'll talk about here today, can have on those kinds of things, right? So I know that this is a series about fat loss, but I did want to mention that. So you're looking to improve your sleep, it'd be great to have some tips on how to make that easier, right? So here are our 11 steps. I was going to say 11 tips, 11 steps, 11 steps to better sleep. Number one, get morning sunlight exposure. And these are kind of in order because I wanted to think about it as like, approach this from top to bottom. But just like everything that we teach, don't feel like you need perfection with this. This is actually kind of modified listing of things that National Institute of Health actually put out. So it's not like we just made this stuff up, and I'm going to expand on some of them a little bit more. But get morning sunlight exposure or very bright lights if you're up before the sun for at least 30 minutes each day. And this is going to help to set your circadian rhythm. And it's going to help with a lot of the energy issues that you run into and trouble falling asleep at night. So get that morning sunlight exposure or very bright light. Limit caffeine consumption to the morning. You'll see things like, oh, don't have it after 2 p.m., whatever. I think an easy rule to implement is just like use caffeine in the morning and not really using it into the afternoon would just be the simplest way to say it, right? Because the half-life of caffeine, even if you're not feeling like jittery from it, it can affect your, like, because people will say, oh, well, I can fall asleep no problem after a full cup of coffee. That's fine. Just like, well, we're going to talk about alcohol here. Just like you can do that after alcohol, but it's not the same sleep. It's not quality sleep. You're not going to get all of the benefits that you would get had you not had caffeine or alcohol. Avoid naps after 3 p.m. Number 3, avoid naps after 3 p.m. This really has to do with you actually get this, it's a buildup that's called sleep pressure, right? And there's some stuff going on in terms of oh my gosh, my brain is going dead in terms of what they're called, but amino acids that build up that actually causes a buildup of that pressure where you want to fall asleep. And if you take a nap after 3 p.m., it doesn't give enough time for that pressure to build back up. And people struggle with falling asleep later in the evening by taking naps after 3 p.m. So cut those afternoon naps, right? Work out, but not too late. So we've actually talked about having later hours at the gym, but we've decided, nope, we will never have later hours at the gym for this reason here. Work out, but not too late. Have at least a 2-hour buffer between finishing your workout and hitting the sheets, because working out too late can be too stimulating and you have trouble falling asleep. Avoid heavy meals and drinking too many fluids before bed. So the heavy meals is just because it can cause things like indigestion, which is going to mess up your sleep quality. And depending on what it is, it can actually, from your body trying to digest that, can actually keep your heart rate higher. You're not going to get into as deep of sleep with that. And then drinking too many fluids is just from the cause of having to wake up and go to the bathroom from having too much to drink before bed. So get more of your fluids in earlier in the day. Not saying don't drink in the evening, but just don't drink like, one of these suckers and then try and go to bed. Avoid alcohol and drugs, including nicotine, before bed. But really, I mean, alcohol, even though it makes you feel like you're sleeping better, it actually keeps you from getting into deeper sleep stages. You're in very light sleep. And even though you might not even realize it, depending on how much you've had to drink, you wake up frequently throughout the night. And again, your quality is absolute crap. And nicotine, because it's a stimulant, right? So, and they go into it in the book too, even things like marijuana. And as much as some people are like, oh, like, smoking, whatever, like makes me feel relaxed and like it's the only way I can shut off and go to sleep. Same thing. It's not good at all. in terms of how much it jacks your sleep up. So cut all that stuff out. I know this is sounding so not fun now, right? This is horrible. Number 7, cut off screen time an hour or 2 before bed, or at least use blue light blocking glasses. So I'll post a link. I use these blue light blocking glasses, Henri. I got them on Amazon. People make fun of me if you see me in the gym wearing them. I look like a nerd, but I do use them in the evenings most days to limit my exposure to blue light. And that blue light is stimulating and basically tells you, hey, it's light outside. We got to keep going. We got to keep going. And by using those, you actually block some of that blue light, and it's easier to fall asleep and get higher quality sleep. All right. Relax and clear your head before bed. This is one that comes up often where people are like, my brain's always running. I feel like I've got a million things to do. So 1, try and create a buffer between the time that you get things done, with work and running around with the kids and everything you have going on, and the time that you have to go to bed. And if you're feeling like anxious, one thing that you can do is clear your head with something called a brain dump. So a brain dump is just pulling out a pad of paper, like one that I always keep handy here. I don't know, the lighting is so bright in front of this window, you probably can't see it, but pad of paper. And I'll just write down all the things, to be like, all right, what's everything I'm feeling overwhelmed and I know that I need to get done? I'll write everything down. What are things that are stressing me out? Write all that stuff down. Just get everything out of your head. And then you can start to look at actually prioritizing your next day. Okay, what do I have to get done? What would I like to get done? And all of a sudden you're like, wow, okay, I feel a lot more relaxed. And we, meaning like myself and Todd and our business partner, Mike, and our other business, Strength Faction, we've done that. We've had a lot of members use it to come back and say, wow, that helps so much. So relax, get a buffer between the things that you need to do and it being time to go to bed, and clear your head with those brain dumps, right? Lower the temperature of your room. I didn't put an exact temperature on here. National Institute of Health, I think, says between 64 and 68 degrees. I might have butchered that, but I know it's really, really, really low. The lower end of it is like, wow, that's cold. Might have even been, I'll find it. I'll probably write it in the email and correct myself, but it's low. It might be lower than that. And a bonus to that is if you actually take a warm bath before bed, or even a hot shower, because that will actually elevate your body temperature. And the reason why the cold room is important is because it actually starts to drop your body temperature, which helps you sleep better. And a warm bath or shower can do the same thing, because it will elevate your body temperature. And then whenever it comes back down, you get really relaxed and it's easier to fall asleep. Number 10, make your room as dark as possible. I drive Jess nuts with this one, but it really, really helps. Like, I don't want an alarm clock with any kind of like digital numbers facing out. I don't even want like a little red light, on say like a set-top box for like the cable or whatever. If you keep that in your room, like I'll cover that up. We're staying in a hotel. I will go around and find all the light. I will take the hangers, like the pant hangers that are in every closet in every hotel, and I will squeeze the blinds, the curtains shut with that so that no light can get through. Even if there's like a fire alarm thing and it blinks, I'll try and get tape or something and cover that up. Cut all of the light, because light is stimulating and starts to tell you, hey, it's time to wake up. And when there's still light in the room, it affects your ability to get into those deeper sleep states. And the final one, create a routine of going to bed and getting up the same time every day. And this one is quite possibly the most impactful, because it starts to, along with the morning sunlight, get that circadian rhythm set to where you're used to, hey, it's time to be awake. It's time to go to sleep. And even though, that might not be as fun on the weekends, we're not saying, 100% consistency with all of these things, but progress is progress. And I wanted to close out this video with another little section from the book, much shorter this time. And it says, a final comment on trying to lose weight. Let's say that you choose to go on a strict low-calorie diet for 2 weeks in the hopes of losing fat and looking more trim and toned as a consequence. Who wouldn't want that? That's precisely what researchers did to a group of overweight men and women who stayed in a medical center for an entire fortnight. However, one group of individuals were given just 5.5 hours time in bed, while the other group were offered 8.5 hours time in bed. Although weight loss occurred under both conditions, the type of weight loss came from very different sources. When given just 5.5 hours of sleep opportunity, more than 70% of the pounds lost came from lean body mass, muscle, not fat. Switch to the group offered 8.5 hours time in bed each night, and a far more desirable outcome was observed, with well over 50% of weight loss coming from fat while preserving muscle. When you are not getting enough sleep, the body becomes essentially stingy about giving up fat. Instead, muscle mass is depleted while fat is retained. Lean and toned is unlikely to be the outcome of dieting when you are cutting sleep short. The latter is counterproductive of the former. So sleep is really, really, really important for your fat loss goals. Can't say it enough. If you're struggling with sleep, look at these 11 things and start to think, what could I add in now? What am I, ready, willing, and able to do? What are things that like, okay, I see that, like maybe I'll work on that later. But there are 11 things here that you can begin to implement that will have a big impact on your sleep. And at the bottom of this email or blog, however you're seeing it, I'm also going to throw down some cool resources like the blue light glasses, like this silly ring that I wear. It's called an Oura ring, but I actually use it to track sleep, because whenever we can quantify something and at least get feedback, like for me, the alcohol, the big meals before bed, and a few other things on here, I was always kind of like, yeah, whatever, like I sleep. And it wasn't until I actually saw the objective data from this ring that I was like, oh, wow, this stuff actually does make a difference. And I started to change some of my routines. It wasn't really, I don't want to say it wasn't possible, but I wasn't even concerned with making those changes until I had an understanding of the need from what I saw what those things were doing to my sleep. So I'll share some resources like that here in the section below. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns whatsoever, reach out and I am happy to help. Talk to you soon.